Okay, I'm going to show you how to do what's called a double cast on method, and there are a lot of different ways to cast on your first row of stitches, and whichever method you use, it's going to be based on the project that you're doing. Some projects require a more elastic edge than others. The trick with the double cast on method is that you want to make sure that the tail end of your yarn is long enough, because you're going to use both the tail end of your yarn and the working end of your yarn to make your stitches. So you can guesstimate the length that you need for your tail, or if you want a little bit more accurate idea, what you can do is figure out how much tail you want to have to weave in at the end. You always want to make sure you leave enough to weave in. And then you can just wrap the yarn around however many times that you have stitches to cast on. So if you have 10 stitches to cast on, you would wrap your yarn around 10 times. And then just mark that place with your finger. Pull your needle out, and then that's where you'll start your first cast on stitch. So when you start with this method, you want to make sure that the tail end of your yarn is to the left and the ball end of your yarn is to the right. You want to have the yarn over your thumb and your index finger. Hold the yarn together with your fingers, and then spread your fingers out. You're going to come up under your yarn with your needle, put your finger right here to hold your yarn, and for the first stitch you have to kind of twist your thumb back a little bit so that you can get up under this thumb loop. So you're going to go under the thumb loop, you're going to go over the finger loop, and then you're going to pull it through the thumb loop, and that gives you a stitch. And the first time you do it, you can either start with a slip knot, or you can just do it without a slip knot, which is what I just showed you, and that's usually how I do it. So I'll show you one more time. Like I said, you can start with a slip knot if you want to, but I just come up under my yarn with my needle, put my finger on, twist my thumb around a little bit so I can get up under that thumb loop. Then you're going to go over the finger loop, and then through the thumb loop, and then tighten it down a little bit. This is your cast on row, so you want to be really careful that you don't get your stitches too tight, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get your needle into your stitches when you go to do your first row. So you want to cast on your stitches pretty loosely. And to do your next one, you do the same thing, up under your thumb loop, over the finger loop, and through the thumb loop. Tighten it down, not too tight though. Under your thumb, over your finger, through the thumb loop. And you just keep doing these stitches until you have the correct number of cast on stitches that you need. And I'm going to do a few here so I can show you what the stitches look like after they're on. But this is my favorite method to use to cast on. It gives you a nice even looking elastic edge, and it's easy to do. Under the thumb loop, over the finger loop, through the thumb loop. Tighten it down. And it looks a little confusing, but once you learn how to do it, you can really do this fast. Okay. So then, once you have however many stitches you need, this is what one side of the work looks like, and you see it has a nice knit looking edge. And then if you turn it over, the other side has a more purl looking edge to it. So this would probably be the wrong side of your work, and this would probably be the right side of your work. So if you cast on with this method, when you go to do your first row of knit stitches, or purl stitches, whatever you're doing, you'll start with the wrong side row, since the wrong side is facing you when you get done.